This is looking so beautiful, y'all. This is looking so beautiful. Wow. Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. It's so good to see all of you here. Thank you so much for tuning in. And tonight we are going to be working on a drawing. Yay! So this piece is titled Depression, and the reason for that is that it's supposed to be the idea of how depression feels very similar to the heaviness of water, just all that weight just surrounding you and pushing down on you. So I kind of wanted to explore that with this, and I also wanted it to be done in a more watercolor sort of shading. So that's what we're working on, and that's why it's kind of taken longer than my pieces normally do. So right now what I'm doing is just working on the shading, and there's just going to be like a lot of blending. At least that's what I'm trying to do. There we go. Much better. Okay. Now I can figure out what I'm doing. What is happening? What am I doing? Okay. Here we go. Shading. And this is how it is sometimes. You're just like, what am I doing? I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. What is anything? What is life? Midgen up. See what that does. Oh, it's underneath it. But it's nice to have some like real cat toys, just some like junky thing that I put together. But a big part of that is because he is so big, which makes him really physically strong. Like, yeah, he's fat, but he's got a lot of muscle under there. Like, he is a big boy, and he breaks stuff. Like, he has destroyed so many cat toys, just annihilated. And like, as much as I would love to have a Roomba, I could never get one because Squishy would just murder it. He would just straight up just destroy it. He'd be like, what is this intruder in my house? Boom. Back in the day, my mom and I used to volunteer at a local animal shelter together. I can't remember if it was every Tuesday or every other Tuesday, but we would volunteer for a few hours at this local animal shelter, the West Suburban Humane Society, which is also where I adopted Lady from. And we would just like go there, and we would spend time with the cats and like clean, and we would help with the adoption process. And it was so rewarding. And it was also really awesome spending time with my mom like that. And because we started doing it when I was like a sophomore in high school, it was kind of the first like non like parent-child like experience that we got to have together. Like, now that I'm an adult, it's like I'm an adult, and we have those kind of experiences all the time now, where it's like I'm an adult and you're an adult, all that. But like, it was fun just being able to like see each other in like a different light at that age. And we volunteered there like for several years up until I went away to college at Columbia. I was actually thinking about that earlier today. It is something that I do think about. I mean, not as often anymore, but it's still a thought that I have, that I really rushed through my college experience, and I really regret doing that. Like, I was just so focused on wanting to graduate and like go out there and be an adult and, you know, live my life and all that. But yeah, I do regret kind of just powering through my college experience and being in way too much of a hurry to graduate. And that's kind of like how I've been with like my whole life, where I'm just like, hurry up and get to whatever the next step is. And it's very like, that's a big thing that I've talked about in my streams, that I'm working on this. I've been working on this for the past few years with my therapist, that I'm trying really hard to learn how to like slow down and be like, this is my life right now. We don't need to just like fast forward to the next step. We can appreciate where we are, and you know, all that stuff. So I used to draw, but I have artist block. I try really hard to draw, but I can't. It's so frustrating. Oh, honey, I feel you. I'm so sorry. That really sucks. It really does. I get both writer's block and artist block because I'm also a writer. And what I actually have done when I'm like, I don't know what to draw next, and I've done it for like a couple of things on here on the live stream, is I actually go back to my old sketchbooks and I look at like some of my old drawings and see if anything like piques my interest. Like, oh, I totally forgot about this drawing idea that I had, and I totally forgot about this drawing idea that I had, and then like I kind of do a redraw, or I kind of like go back to that idea and like actually work on it and stuff. So that's usually how I kind of like push past when I have artist block like that. But sometimes it's just a matter of, it's not even that you don't have an idea, it's the motivation. But yeah, that's actually after we finish this drawing. The next drawing that I really want to get started on is a very old drawing that I did back in high school, and I want to do a redraw of it because it's just so beautiful, and I really, really, really want to just like punch it up with the skills that I have now as an artist. But I can't tell y'all what it is because it's a surprise. That's how I like to do it, is don't reveal what I'm going to draw until like y'all actually get here and it's like, surprise, this is what we're drawing, and it's fun. So I want to draw a face with its skin melting off, and under the skin is a skull, but the skull is like a cage. I don't know how to describe it. I did sketches and it looks really cool. It's to show mental health and how it feels like you feel like you're in a prison and you know no one can hear you. Oh yeah, yeah. I am Alex's sister. Yes, I am. Hi. It's a small world after all. But yeah, that sounds like such a cool idea. I really love that. I really love that. And I totally relate to that. What is it exactly that you're like, are you having trouble with like the mechanics of it? Like figuring out how to make it look the way that you want it to? Are you having trouble with like concept of it where you can't really get it to like be wrangled into what exactly you're looking for? Or is it just you're like, I just don't feel motivated, even though you're like excited about this project? Are you the Chance from England? Yes, that's me. I can't get the proportions right. Ah, you can't get the proportions right. Oh, I totally feel you. I totally feel you, sweetie. I used to struggle so hard with proportions, and there's a lot of stuff that I like still struggle with the proportions. So a little secret of mine is go to like stock photography websites if like you're drawing something that's like real, not like 100% totally fantasy imagined stuff. So like in your case, looking up a face, go to stock photography websites and look up what you're trying to draw. So in your case, look up like faces that are making a facial expression similar to what you want to draw, and then do like study sketches that way with the photo in front of you. I found that having reference material like that makes a world of difference. So like for my illustrated novel Geisha Hands that I finished at the beginning of last year, 2020, that's what I did, is I just Googled thousands of pictures of geisha, and that's how I was able to draw everything for that book. Is I just Googled thousands of pictures of geisha and just all the other Japanese things that I needed to draw, and I would just like sit there and just be like, okay, this is what I need to draw. And just having that reference in front of your face really helps make all the difference with proportion. And it's also just really honestly a lot about practice. Yeah, stock photos are like super helpful in terms of like any sort of reference that you're trying to figure out. Like I use it a lot for figuring out like how exactly I want to pose a character. And for this particular drawing that I'm doing right now, I knew what I wanted was so specific that I actually set up my phone and I actually took a picture of myself in this pose so that I could know exactly what I was looking for. So I mean, that's also why it looks very similar to me, because like it's technically me. And that's the other thing too, is that because I work in different mediums, like I also do like paintings and stuff like that, and there's certain aspects, there's pros and cons to every medium, and it's just so funny sometimes when I'm working in one medium and I'm just like, oh, I just wish I could do this one thing, like how I can do it in a different medium. It would be so much easier if I could just do that thing. And in this case, it's like I wish I could just take my paintbrush and just blend. And then of course when I'm painting, like IRL painting, I'm like, I wish I had an undo button. I love my undo button. And a big thing that like why I want to like research all these different kinds of cultures is that something that really fascinates me is how you know, the similarities and the differences. So kind of similar with different European cultures, that proximity means that you're going to have like a lot of similarities but then a lot of differences at the same time, and just seeing how that kind of stuff evolved from like, you know, what's the same and what's different. That's something that's always fascinated me. So researching, you know, and learning about those different cultures and their histories, you know, helps me to better understand that. And again, I mean, that's just me being a dork. Like I don't have any like necessity for learning that. Like I'm not like, you know, doing a thing or like being paid to do that. That's just what I do with my spare time. But yeah, I'm very lucky that I was able to go to one of my wish list places is I got to go to Japan. It's officially been 10 years since I went to Japan. Wow, I'm old. And that was just like everything I could have ever dreamed of. Oh my God. It was the best 14 days of my life, quite frankly. Like the only thing that was better than going to Japan was the day that I held my first published books in my hand. My first published book in my hands. Like that was the best day. Going to Japan, close second. And I didn't get to do all of the things that I wanted to do just because, like, I mean, you can't fit visiting an entire country in only 14 days. I mean, that's just not practical, but I did a lot while I was there. I was able to see and do a lot. So it was a really awesome trip. And Toba is one of like, it's not rural, but it's like not like a city. It's like not urban. It's a little bit in between. So I went to a resort there. So it was like this actual like really nice like spa resort place where like people go for like vacation and stuff. And it was kind of touristy, but I mean that was okay because like I was in a foreign country and like I love realness and I love authenticity, but I also love feeling like I know what I'm doing. And I particularly went there because they had the best aquarium in Japan, in Toba, and I went and it was the best aquarium ever. Yeah, so I had an absolute blast at the Toba aquarium, and it was funny because when I went, there was like a little elementary school field trip at the aquarium at the same time. So there were all these like little kids. I think they were like in like kindergarten or first grade, and like I was just as excited as they were. Like I was also running around being like, wow, fish. So it was very high energy. It was a good time. It was very fun. I had a blast. It was awesome. Yeah, so when I was in Japan, I also went to one of the temples there and I did the tourist thing where you know the saying when in Rome. So I did not do that. Literally everyone else was walking on this one path and it looked like it was really hard to walk on, and because I am me and I'm the least practical human on the face of the planet, I was in heels and I was like, I want to walk on the nice smooth concrete path and not this like grass and rocks path. So that looks like I'm gonna fall on my face if I try and do that. And of course all of the people were looking at me like I was completely crazy walking on this path because it was like this little river, like this man-made river, and so like the two paths were kind of split, but they were like, you know, they go to the same place. Yeah, so I was walking along this path and I'm like, why is everyone staring at me? Like, okay, you know, this path is like whatever. And the path that I was on, it was lined with all these trees. The other path, it was like open, like grass openness. I realized, and like for the rest of the trip in Japan, I realized and was completely terrified because I have arachnophobia, that it was the season for when all of the tree spiders are a thing. It was very upsetting. So I all of a sudden, I don't know what possessed me to do so, but I looked up and I saw like in the trees, basically like a foot above my head, were all these giant spiders just everywhere. Just like completely covering the trees, and they were like this big. They were enormous and they were like bright green. They were like danger green, like I am super poisonous green, and I just lost my shit. I immediately like just like boom, like went down to my like I just went down to my knees and I was just crying and I'm like, oh my god, someone please save me from the scary spiders that are like a foot above my head. I can't. Why did no one tell me there were scary spiders above my head? And so for the rest of the trip, I was just staying as far away from all the trees as possible because all of them were just covered in spiders. And like thankfully, like the spiders had zero interest in me. They were probably like, what is wrong with this lady? She has no chill. She's like freaking the for no reason. But like I'm so scared of spiders, so it was super awful and I felt really dumb. So the next time I go to a foreign country, if everyone is doing a thing, I'm going to do the thing. I'm not deviating from what everybody else is doing. I'm gonna follow the leader, do what everybody else is doing. Even if the other path looks like it would be the better path, I'm never questioning that ever again after all the spiders. Just oh no thanks. I love that it's like we're all like hanging out together, like sharing all these fun stories together. Like I really enjoy that. Like that's a big thing that I personally get out of this with y'all is like sitting here and like having these conversations with y'all. So I really appreciate that and I love it when y'all interact with me in the comments. And I know that I can't always be paying attention because I have to draw for y'all or do whatever I'm doing, but I really love hearing what y'all have to say. It really makes my day. Yeah, another one of the authentic experiences that I had when I was in Japan was this one restaurant in particular. It was like a teeny tiniest hole in the wall place. It was literally called The Spot. And the guy that ran it had actually lived in the States for like 20 years. So he knew English. And it was like, I swear, it was just like his house. And he had converted like the first floor of his house to be a restaurant. And like everything was like fresh catch of the day. He would literally like there was no menu. It was literally he just would pull out stuff and he'd be like, this fish, they caught it today on this boat and it's this fish and it's delicious. And he would like cut it up into like sashimi and stuff and he'd be like, enjoy, eat. And he was just like, here, have this, like telling all about, you know, this is what it is and blah blah blah. And it was such a cool, fun experience for like this local to just like be like, there is no menu. I just give you things and you eat it and it's great. And I got it was also like a little bit like a bar setting because it was like this long like bar that he was behind and then you sat like on a stool at it, but it was like mainly emphasis on like the fish. And then he also had like beer and sake and plum wine. And I got rip-roaring drunk on plum wine. I got super toasty, y'all. I was basically obnoxious like by the time that I left there. But it was all good because like I think they were digging it. Like they were like super amused. Like they were like, oh my god, let's get the American girl drunk. This is hilarious. And like I wasn't like, you know how there's like the people that are like annoying, obnoxious when they're drunk, and then there's the people that are just like so extra and they just like pump up the level of the party by like 10 points. I'm the latter. I'm the one that like pumps up the party by like 10 points. I'm not like that obnoxious frat boy that you're just like, oh god, please leave, please stop. Like that's not me. I'm not that annoying drunk person. Thank goodness. And I know this because people have told me this. Like I have proof, I have receipts. I am a fun drunk. Pretty sure if I wasn't a fun drunk that people wouldn't love hanging out with me at Berlin so much. But yeah, so we were having like the best time and the food was just so fresh and so delicious because it was literally like they caught it that day and he was just like, yeah, it's from this place and just eat it and it's great. And he was so funny and he was so much fun and it was a really cool way to just get that local experience, but it's still like it's very like familiar and safe because it's like a restaurant setting. It's not like I'm like, you know, backpacking out in the wilderness or something crazy or whatever. So that was very fun. And then in that same evening, so I ate all night at this place, just stuffed myself ridiculous with all this sashimi and plum wine, and I was just rip-roaring drunk in Kyoto, walking back to my ryokan, which is a family-owned inn. Yeah, so I was walking back to the ryokan, and on the way, I was just like, I smell something amazing! And I stumbled into this other, like, teeny tiny little hole-in-the-wall place. It was literally, like, right by the front door. They had this massive massive drum. Like it looked like those like metal construction drums. Those. And it was like all of the ramen broth just simmering in this giant metal drum cauldron. And so they did that on purpose so that you smell it out on the street. And I came in and I was like, this is amazing. And I plopped myself down on one of the little stools and had a whole bowl of ramen. And it was so good. And it was so simple because it was literally just walk in, you let them know like if you want extra noodles or extra broth or whatever. It wasn't like the fancy ramen that has like a ton of ingredients in it. It was literally just broth, noodles, and green onions. That's it. Nothing else. Just let them know how much of each of the 3 things you want. And then boom, here's a bowl, you know. And there was like no conversation. Like everybody just like had their bowl and they're just... And I looked around and I realized that it was like almost all construction workers that had gotten off from like probably 3rd shift because it was like, I don't know, like 1 in the morning or something at that point. And also my time, like my inner clock was so screwed up that like 1 in the morning was not a big deal for me. I was just like, oh, it's like, you know, whatever o'clock. And like they did not care about me at all. Like they were not like interested in my presence at all. They were just like, I'm eating food. I don't care. I'm hungry, which was really nice that I got to just sit down and I just got to enjoy this bowl of ramen. And I just felt like it was just like me and the ramen and like that was it. There was like no other outside factor. By the time I got to the hotel, I was like so stuffed. I was just like, oh, I made all the choices. I loved that the entire time I was in Japan, I felt so safe. Like I was walking around at like 1 a.m. completely plastered. And I never once felt like I should be concerned for my safety. I had a blast. I don't think I slept very much the entire time I was in Japan. I was just too excited. Like, I only think I got like a few hours of sleep each night because my eternal clock was so messed up. I was like up until like 1 or 2 in the morning and then I would wake up at like, you know, like 6 a.m. for no reason like the next day. So it was just big chaos energy there. I did go to one of the, like, as we know, the American arcades. So not like the shopping arcades that I went to, like a, you know, pew pew, like video games arcade. I did go to one of those. It was a pachinko machine arcade. And I did that in honor of my dad because growing up, my grandfather, my dad's dad, had a pachinko machine because he was actually in the military during World War II, so we had a pachinko machine. Grandpa and my great uncle both were. So I kind of did that in honor of my dad to be like, look, I found the pachinko machines. And we actually have the family pachinko machine in our basement, which is pretty freaking cool. This is looking so beautiful, y'all. This is looking so beautiful. Wow. These like water droplets on the rocks just made this drawing. I think we're done. I think we're done, y'all. Look at it. It's beautiful. It's what I wanted it to be. I think we're done. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope y'all have a great weekend. Stay safe, be warm, and take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.